Thank you for tuning in. Another video podcast. This one's special. It's not like the other ones we've been doing. This is like a macroeconomics. So if it's something you're into, this will be a special when we get into Bitcoin, some macroeconomics, some geopolitical stuff. If you're not into it, still a great listen so you can get educated because financial education is very important. But also the full audio will be on all platforms. This video does cut out about 3/4 of the way through. So if you want to finish it, please, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, we're everywhere. So check it out there. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Real O Show podcast. Another episode, different location. No tip today. Got a special guest on, Jake Gingell. We'll obviously introduce him. Obviously, we still got O Show here, the chef, the man behind the scenes. So, man, this is going to be a great conversation. This is something I'm very passionate about with the macroeconomics and obviously investing and getting into Jake. Graduate of University of Michigan, played hockey there, economics degree, Bitcoin guy, but we'll kind of let him introduce himself and just say hi to everybody. But Jake, kind of say, maybe give somebody some background, maybe a fun fact about you.
For sure. What's up, everyone? It's great to be on the podcast. My name's Jake. Played at U of M, played hockey there, economics major there. Grew up with these two my whole life, basically. Always been around. Well, we went on our separate paths, but always found each other in the end. Fun story. Zachary, when we were little, playing hockey. I didn't know a lot of bad words back then, but he just went up to me during a hockey drill. I think we were like 6 years old. I didn't even know what a douchebag was. He comes up to me, he goes, "You're a douchebag." I start crying. I go to my dad. I'm like, "Dad, what's a douchebag?" Dude, it was so funny, bro. I cried for like a couple days because of you, man.
Oh, man.
You don't even remember it.
I probably called a lot of people a douchebag, honestly.
Nah, it's just funny, bro.
That's great. No, we're happy to have you. This is gonna be a fun conversation. Before we get into it, bro. Osh, we got something to say to the camera, something to say to the people?
No, I'm just happy to have Ginge here.
This is going to be a good one.
I'm excited. I think this is going to be a very educational podcast. It's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to stare at the
I
camera.
don't have to stare.
It's like a normal conversation. This is like a conversation, bro. This is like,
we're
just don't even think about the camera.
We keep it super casual.
Super casual, man, bro. You want to put a foot up, you want to do whatever. You got some beers already, so we're going well right now, but so obviously, Jake is someone who I turn to a lot with cryptocurrencies and even just macroeconomic views. Obviously, I have a passion of financial intelligence. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki literally changed my life. Like ever since I've read that book, I've kind of been on that path. But the market, the economy is kind of in a weird spot right now. Obviously, It's something I've never really witnessed because I was younger with the last financial crisis. But kind of give, maybe an overall view, 10,000 view for, just a basic for the people listening.
So I'd say the main thing that happened in 2008 was banks were really leveraged. So what happened back then was the housing crisis crashed, or the housing crisis happened. There was a crash, obviously. But the main driver of that was these banks were leveraged where they were holding mortgage-backed securities, which is an investment, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't have as much cash on their balance sheets. They had more mortgage-backed securities and other assets. So what happened was when they were over-leveraged and everyone came and said, "Hey, I need my money," they said, we can't honor that. So they had to start selling their assets. And so what happened when they sold off their assets, they had a death spiral. Mm-hmm. So once you sell off, 100, Tesla stock, price is going to go down. So what they were doing is they were selling, driving the price down of all the other stock holdings or mortgage-backed securities that they had, which ended up just being a problem because,
because it makes other people want to sell too.
Yeah. And it dwindled down their own assets. So eventually, there was the big bust. But after 2008, there's a big difference between now and 2008 is the Dodd-Frank bill, which they made banks hold more cash or assets, cash than assets. So they're in a better spot financially with their cash reserves. I think they're the highest or close to the highest they've ever been. So that's the big difference between then and now. So I don't think the bank banking is.
I don't think banks are in trouble. Right
No,
now.
I don't think
this isn't a
banks
banking
are.
crisis.
Exactly. So it's going to be different than 2008.
For sure.
2008 was the banks.
No doubt.
So
well, that's why it surprised so many people is that it was the banks, and everybody trusted these banks. Something just clicked off. Everybody trusted these banks, and they were the ones the most levered, the most dangerous, and obviously things like that happen can be deadly. But I guess kind of get into what's going on now, and I know you want to talk about the start of 2020 with COVID, because that's kind of been the reason we're in the position we are. At least didn't help.
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
the position we're in. So kind of go off from the macro environment, starting with COVID, and then obviously up till present day.
So what happened in COVID was economy was going great, right? Obviously we had to shut down because everyone got scared of the virus. So everyone was told, stay in your house, don't drive, don't eat out.
Yeah.
So essentially what happened was everyone started saving money, right? They drove less, they ate out less. So people felt rich in a sense. And at the same time, interest rates went to zero. So corporations could borrow money, 0%.
0%.
0%, which is crazy. Because if you think about it, it only made the inequality of wealth worse because these bigger corporations got bigger loans than the smaller companies.
Also, the big corporations get the most tax breaks and everything as well. So it's just kind of playing into the wealth gap as well.
Yeah, and then if you think about families like middle class, lower class families that still had jobs, obviously, they got $1,400, depending on how many kids they had or whatever. They might got more or less money. And then on top of that, we had stimulus checks. So, but the big driver was basically the free money, right? Because the interest rate basically just tells you how expensive cash is, like your availability to cash, right? So you make the availability to cash less expensive, it feels, you feel cash rich, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you can take more risk. You feel like you can do all these things because you'll always be fine, right? So that's what happened in 2020, and then 2021, same things kept happening. People were told to stay home. They saved money on gas, food, whatever. Corporations, they saved money on not having people in the workspace.
Because they were able to downsize.
Yeah, downsize, right? So they felt, cash rich. And then, 2022 comes along and inflation hits hard. And the reason for that is because I'm not saying this is the main driver. Obviously we printed $6 trillion in 3 years. Did not help.
Which is not how you create inflation, which we can get into that as well. You don't create inflation by printing money.
Well, it's also the velocity of money as well.
Velocity of money is how you create it.
So yeah, exactly. So it's a combination of both.
It is, but velocity is the biggest money. It's the turnover of money.
For sure, yeah.
To create inflation, it's I give you $1, you give somebody else $1, you give them $1, and it's like, you have a velocity of 4. Whereas the velocity, you can look at it. You can look at these massive charts. They show you the money printing, how much money printing. So we're at the top, and then the velocity we're at never been lower in the velocity of money. So people aren't spending money for this inflation.
Now they are.
Well, people don't have money either.
Exactly.
So
so
it's now you're really hurting people.
So that's what I was going to get into. So they gave families $1,400, right? We're just okay. So inflation, the CPI is just a joke. It's not actual inflation.
It's wrong.
I think inflation is more like 15, 20, but
agreed.
I would say we're just going to use 10 as an example, 10%, because it's an easy number. So, all the families that got $1,400, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to cover their inflation costs. Like, if inflation's, let's say 10%, and we're not even talking about compounding over the years at this point. We're just talking about 2020 or 2022. But if I give a family $1,400 and they make the average income of $50K, inflation's eating away at $5K. So you didn't make any money. You might have felt richer by getting $1,400, but you're not actually richer. So that's why people won't spend money anymore, is because they either leverage it up with their house, because people got variable interest rates, right?
For sure.
So if you can own, they basically had to cut their housing price that they could afford on a 30-year mortgage in half. If you compare, that 2.5% back then, now it's almost 6. It's like ranging between 6 and 5. So I think people are leveraged up, and what ultimately has to happen is a recession's got to hit. People need to be unemployed. I mean, it sounds horrible, but it has to happen. The people who leveraged up and made mistakes are gonna take the fall for it.
They need to be shown they made a mistake.
Exactly.
What leads to crashes, and I'm assuming you are aware of the term, is like black swan events, right?
Yeah.
People are like, always looking for the black swan event. And Michael Gaillard is like a guy I love, the lead lag report I subscribe to. He always talks about, people are always like, I'm looking for the black swan event. And he's like, you can't look for a black swan event. It's a black swan because no one saw it coming.
Oh, yeah, no one sees
it. Like, that's why it's a black swan.
Mm-hmm.
And he always talks about leverage is what leads to the crashes.
Oh, so
you give the free money. Yeah. You have corporations levered up, right? In my head, I think of Michael Saylor with like Bitcoin, how much like he's levered up with that. And that's a different, that's like over my head.
Well, he's getting a 0% interest
but he's getting 0%. So it's, but he's also smart to where it's like, if you're going to give it to me 0%, even if it goes down a bunch, like I can still make those payments because 0%, I'm going to give you $100,000. Just give me $100,000 in 20 years. Like, it makes no sense. But that's also 0 to negative interest rates is probably what we're going to live in
for sure.
The rest of our life until, something, the U.S. currency probably crashes.
I think the U.S. currency is going to be the last one to crash because if you look at all these, countries that are revolting right now. I think it's Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah. They just overrun their capital. Their president or whatever, or I think it might be prime minister. He fled the country.
His PJ.
Dude, it's the smaller countries that are gonna go bonkers and they're gonna freak out and their currencies are gonna collapse. They're gonna have to go to the U.S. dollar. But
that's the thing. What I've been really interested in is South America, right? I've had like this weird obsession with South America like over the last 2 years because they've already went through a hyperinflation and pretty much like a currency collapse. Like it's not completely collapsed, but they've went through hyperinflation, which the U.S. will eventually go to. You hyperinflate, then it usually crashes, right? And that's where I'm curious to see how they react to the hyperinflation and with that because these countries, at least the countries close to the United States, I do think it's going to become like an East-West like war where it's like Russia and China kind of have their own currency and then U.S. kind of has their own currency and then the countries are just going to pick.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I can see that, yeah.
I think that's just the most likely because you start getting into these countries that are near Russia and China. And if Russia and China is not working with the U.S., why would they let a close country have U.S. help? They're going to be like, no, that's not going to happen. Or we're just going to bomb you is what I think happens. But kind of going off that and transitioning, I know we've kind of rabbit holed there a little bit. But I do want to talk Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess it would be probably best to give everybody a little bit background about Bitcoin. So Jake was on Bitcoin early. A lot. I mean, not super early, but way before a lot of people. But yeah, kind of just going to that story because I'm curious to hear it as well.
At what point did you get in at? Like I got in at like 26, I think, was when I got in. Like I bought it like the first 26.
What, 26K?
26K.
I was looking at it during the COVID crash, so it got down to like 3K. I won't say exactly where I bought it, but I was like looking into it at that point.
So yeah, he got it. You got it for a good spot.
Well, so a funny story is like when I was little, it's weird how I remember this, like really weird. So when I was little, my cousin was an economics major. He was a kicker at U of M, and dude, 2000, I think it was. Bitcoin was in 2008 or 2009. I think it was 2008. So he came around in 2012. I think it was like $200 a Bitcoin back then. He was going to my family party, bro, and I was like this little kid because he's like, I think he's like 30 something right now. He was going around going, "Hey, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin." Everyone's like, "Ha, you're an idiot. That's like fake money. I'm not gonna buy it." Dude, whole family there. Like my dad's got 8 brothers and sisters combined. None of them bought it. He's the only one who bought it. Crazy. Dude, I would be probably multi-millionaire right now if my dad just put $1,000 in.
I mean,
I would have to do the calculations on it, but
yeah, I mean, my thing with Bitcoin is, I think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, especially as we are going towards a cashless society.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely going to be a central bank digital dollar. My problem with Bitcoin is, for some reason, I'm stuck on who created it.
Yeah.
I think it does matter. I think, man, I can't get over it. I think a government created it. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm stuck on. And I also think, and if a government didn't create it, I truly think you have countries like the United States, and China's already outlawed it. You know, like China's already said no Bitcoin mining.
Mm-hmm.
But now, what if the United States is like, we ban it too, and then you ban all these places from having Bitcoin? Like, yeah, you can still kind of get it, and they did it with gold back in the day where you couldn't own gold. I get it, but man, like it's just, I'm on the fence with it because I do think you need to be outside of the U.S. dollar. Like, I think it's smart to be outside of the U.S. dollar, and I don't know if that's with physical gold or Bitcoin, but kind of just give your outlook on Bitcoin and just, you obviously believe in it, so I just kind of want to hear that and why you believe in it.
I mean, what got me hooked on Bitcoin, which I think everyone originally hears, is fixed supply 21 million. So I was looking at a chart today. So Bitcoin actually isn't a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against monetary debasement.
I agree with that.
So I actually saw a chart today where the global money supply goes up, not up, but Bitcoin follows. It's literally the same chart. Yeah, it's the same chart. I agree. It's gone down recently because the Fed runs repos, whether it's a reverse repo. They take money out of circulation, and obviously higher interest rates. They do a lot of things to take money out of circulation, which currently is what happened, why it's so low. But obviously other factors as well. But the main thing the main reason I love Bitcoin, so it's unconfiscatable, right? So in Ukraine, when Ukraine got attacked by Russia, people weren't fleeing with gold. They weren't fleeing with dollars. They were fleeing with Bitcoin because you can plug a set of numbers in your head through a cold storage wallet. Let's say it's 26, words. So it's like 26 words. You can pick like 14 words. Doesn't really matter. They were plugging these words in their head or writing it down on their hand or wherever they wanted to write it, and they were walking past Russian soldiers like, I don't have any money, because it was hidden, right? Yeah. So if you think about regime changes and, like, I don't know, let's just say anywhere, right? Government comes to your house, give me all your money. I don't have my money. It's in my head. I don't have it. You can't take it, right? That's one thing I love about it. Gold, you can't do that.
I agree 100% with what you just said.
So that's my problem. That's one of my problems with gold. Not all these characteristics really are against gold, but so the max supply of 21 million with gold. When the price of gold goes up, miners want to mine more. It incentivizes them to mine more. With Bitcoin price goes up. Miners are incentivized to keep mining to secure the network, but they'll never get more than 21 million coins. So another thing with Bitcoin is the finality of the transaction. With gold, I got to pay a truck driver or security team to transport the gold to Canada to give it to a relative. You know, if my friend's in Taiwan and goes, dude, I need your help, send me Bitcoin, I need money now. Boom, sent. You know, so it's like different. What else do I like? So I like Bitcoin because it's decentralized. No country can control it. You know, China banned it. The hash rate went down, security model went down, and now it's even higher than it used to be. The reason why China doesn't like Bitcoin is because they can't control it, man. Like sure. Did you see that they froze the Taiwan central bank, or not Taiwan? Sorry, a central bank in China. They froze their citizens' bank accounts. It's just like the truckers in Canada. The truckers in Canada were using Bitcoin to stay alive and to buy firewood and to buy fuel and to buy food because they were freezing all their bank accounts. I just think Bitcoin in general is freedom because Canada can't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
China can't do anything about it. You can ban it, but you still can't keep people from using it. You don't know how many people in China are using it. They don't have to be mining it. And honestly, I would rather China not be mining it. I'd rather the U.S. get all the Bitcoins they can, and we keep dominance over countries like China and Russia.
I think Russia's irrelevant from like being a world power. I think Russia's absolutely irrelevant.
Their military is just not advanced.
They're just not. They're just man. Russia's number one asset is land. That's it. That's what Russia's value. Obviously, they're a natural they're heavy resources. They're closer to like a developing country than a developed country because of their resources. Obviously, they do give a lot of energy to Europe, which is gonna hurt Europe for sure.
Dude, Europe's done. They're done.
I mean, I think they're just gonna have to come to the table with Russia and make deals. It's what's gonna happen. But that's how you weaponize these currencies, and that's why I think it's gonna be people are gonna support the U.S. and it's gonna be these people, and then these people are gonna whether they want to or because they have to, they're gonna have to support China and Russia. But my biggest thing is, before I go on, you have any thoughts about Bitcoin? What you think? What's it mean to you? Before we go on,
I'm a Bitcoin fan. I think we had this conversation earlier today. I'm kind of moving off the crypto and I'm kind of moving more into the NFT space because I think that's where I feel like it's easier to tell which the winners are going to be because you can invest in a person or a project. And the reason why I like Bitcoin, because Gary Vee says it best. When you're first to market, it's better to be first. Like if you're the person who runs it the most efficiently, you always have to run it the most efficiently.
Yeah.
When you're first, you're first.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Bitcoin will stay, whether has no purpose, but it's just the common, buying, it's just demand.
I agree. I do agree with the NFTs. I do want to say that none of this is financial advice. Absolutely none of it. Please do 100% of your research. This is like what we believe in, what we think. This is what we're doing, but please do your own research, not financial advice. But I do want to say I read the Bitcoin white paper. Mm-hmm. So the one advantage with Bitcoin, it is by far the most secure cryptocurrency. Exactly, it is by far the most secure.
Yeah.
They've tried to change it. They've tried to manipulate it. Obviously, they can't. I still have to worry about the government. But 21 million, capped at 21 million, that's where it goes wrong for me, where it's like, how do you scale that throughout the world? That doesn't seem like enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes down to Satoshi, so it goes down to, like, the smallest unit you could possibly think of.
I agree.
So, the thing with Bitcoin, the greatest thing about Bitcoin that nobody can talk bad about, there were no insiders. Well, there was Satoshi, but if you read Satoshi's blog posts, he didn't know if Bitcoin was going to succeed or not. He actually asked Wikipedia, or WikiLeaks, he asked WikiLeaks not to accept Bitcoin because they go, it's too young. Bitcoin's too young. I don't want you guys to accept Bitcoin, have the price go up, it get hacked. We need more miners. Like, it's too early for us to scale. And so what happened was, nobody believed in Bitcoin. It was a bunch of computer nerds. And they kept stacking. It went up, crashed. People sold forever. People bought in that had never known about it before. So the decentralized, fair way that Bitcoin was dispersed across the world has never happened in investments before. You think about Apple. You think about Tesla. The guys who started those companies, they own all the shares. Why do you think Elon Musk is so rich, right? Let's say Satoshi Nakamoto, he owns 1 million Bitcoins, right? I think compared to what other CEOs and what other founders hold of their stock, I think that's minimal compared to what they own, what Elon Musk, what the percentage of the company Elon Musk owns, or any of these companies. And we don't even know if Satoshi's alive, if his kids even have the coins, if he just threw away the coins because he believed in it so much. We have no idea.
I mean, you made a good point with the stocks. And the one thing with the stock market that stock market is openly manipulated.
Openly. The price of gold notes manipulates gold, man.
Gold is the most manipulated because the thing is, you have to keep gold suppressed because if it shot up, people would be like, what
Oh,
the
yeah.
fuck's going on?
It's like Bitcoin, but that's the thing about Bitcoin. You can't suppress it.
But the thing with
ban it,
Bitcoin,
though,
I think Bitcoin is more of like a leveraged NASDAQ technology play.
I mean, yeah, it has a...
Because it's new technology. I
Yeah.
don't think Bitcoin is cemented on like what it is. It's still... I get it. It's been, 2000 it came out, 1997, whatever. The NSA created the thing about Bitcoin. It's obviously been through time, but it hasn't been truly, truly tested where we've had this argument with gold. Like, I'm a big gold guy because it's been around since the start of time. They were, back in the day when they didn't have iPhones, they were still on the ground looking for gold. You know what I'm saying? They were looking for it. So it's like they didn't. It wasn't Twitter saying, "Hey, go buy some gold, go mine gold." It was that there was some sense or something in their body, and this is what Robert Kiyosaki, whether you're religious or not, he says it's God's money because it's like they just knew they had to do it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's conspiracies. Joshua likes to talk about the aliens programming people.
I could
maybe.
Hey,
I'm on board.
Shout out Joe Rogan.
Thanks, Joe.
Let's see where we want to take this.
But yeah, no, with Satoshi Nakamoto, I actually think I know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. I mean, you could, there's so, like, you look online.
I think it's a team.
So I think
it's a team.
It could, yeah. It could be a group of people. It could have just been one guy. I mean, it's hard. A lot of people think it's a team, but Hal Finley, I had you look into him, right?
Yeah,
Hal Finney.
Yeah. I know.
So he had a neighbor 2 doors down. His name was Satoshi Nakamoto. He got the first Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi to Hal. That was the first Bitcoin transaction ever. And Hal, he posted on forums. Satoshi, they would communicate together through email. Like, these are open to everyone to see, right?
Yeah.
And he died from ALS. And do you think any human on Earth or any human's family could resist the urge of cashing in on 1 million Bitcoins right now? Do you think anyone could hold back that urge and go, dude, I could be a billionaire right now.
Well,
I could cash it all in and live lavishly. They haven't spent 1 cent. Cent.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's
Listen,
tough.
do I think Bitcoin goes higher from where it's at right now? Yes. Do I think it has a chance to go back to a couple $1,000s? Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's going to test that low again. Might go lower, might not. It's whether you look at charts and just history. Like things happen. Like, I don't think it's going to jump to $500,000 tomorrow. But in 10 years, is it 500K?
Could be.
Maybe. Like, there's definitely something there, and that's why they could be holding out. Just because I do think the math lines up, and the more these central banks and governments continue to print money, it's going to force people to go out on the risk curve, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think right now, more people are thinking, I'll buy Bitcoin than I'm going to buy physical gold.
Well, I mean, essentially...
Because it's also harder to buy physical gold than buy Bitcoin.
For the main reasons I said Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's easier to buy. And, it's just... It's two totally different things.
It's almost too easy to buy.
It's almost too easy.
Just too easy to buy.
Just to go off the I kind of want to stir some conspiracy up here just because I think of it.
Yeah,
so you were talking about how it would be impossible for someone to spend spend the million Bitcoin.
Think about game theory,
just
bro.
sell it, right?
Think
but
about
what if it is a single person, like Satoshi's a single person, right? And he created that. I feel like he's also that smart where he's like, all right, these motherfuckers might want to just cash it out. How can I prevent this? Maybe he's just got a timer where they only get so many or something. I don't know. Like, think about like that, or like a trust. Like, after so long, like
the money opens up.
Exactly.
So they can't access, his family can't access the money until a certain date.
But I'm just thinking, like, if you're that smart and you believe in it and you're like, bro, because you could see, like, if someone just dropped 1 million Bitcoins on the market, it would crash it.
Well, this is my thing. This is my thing. Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
It's one.
It'd be like doing any stock.
That's what I'm saying.
Doing anything.
That's my point. Is like, so like that's if he knows that, then why would you? Because like imagine when it's at $60,000.
Well, this is my thing. This is my thing with Bitcoin, and why I think an insider created it. An insider, like ex-government employee, CIA, a government, like. It's somebody on the inside that knows like this is gonna go high because it tests everything that our society currently believes in.
Well, Satoshi said the reason why he created it is because he didn't trust central banks after
I don't
the
trust central
08
banks.
after the '08 financial crisis. He released Bitcoin. It was in 2008, right after the crisis. And his reason on his forum or on his email or whatever it was on, I can't remember, he said, you cannot trust central banks. This is something they cannot control. We don't appoint anyone in our government to control money supply or interest rates.
No.
Satoshi knew that. He was like,
100%.
this isn't fair. We don't appoint Jerome Powell. We don't vote for these people, man. They're appointed. So he was like, central banks are reckless. I'm going to come up with this peer-to-peer money system that nobody can control and can't be manipulated. So that was the whole point. So I don't know why a government, maybe you're thinking reverse psychology, I guess, at some point.
For sure I am.
But what I'm saying is just game theory in general. I just don't know if a human being can restrain from spending those coins.
You just turn them off. We can keep going. No, my one thing.
Can I have a question here? 'Cause
Yeah, go.
I wanted to say. So you said he dropped it right after the '08 crisis.
Yeah. So
my question was, what
Well,
does
now
that make him?
He for sure hasn't been tested.
Does that make him American then, or is it like, was the? I mean, obviously the whole world,
God.
was affected by it, but I'm saying like,
Crushed.
is that why? Like,
I think he was American, but I mean, we can speculate all.
that's
day.
why I'm just
We don't
curious.
know.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm curious. Like,
Probably
what do you
why.
think?
That's why he gave himself a crazy ass name.
The whole world went through. Well, so I'm saying,
Obviously,
like,
if America goes through something, the whole world is feeling it.
Yeah.
We have the world economy.
yeah.
sure.
Well, I just think it's weird that Hal Finney had a neighbor that was named Satoshi Nakamoto.
I mean, that's definitely. I mean, there's that. I mean, listen.
I just think it's weird, and he got the first Bitcoin transaction
For sure, makes a lot of sense, and I've heard him. I've heard a group of people.
Yeah, it could have been a group of people.
It's.
I'm sure he had help. Who knows?
For sure, I would agree with something this kind of master plan.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely got some help, but it's the man. It's just it's like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because I love how you're like it's freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe we need to get away as far as we possibly can away from like Fed and central banks.
Yeah.
You need sound money. You need something to store my wealth. I shouldn't have to go invest in the stock market. I shouldn't have to go invest into real estate. I shouldn't have to. I mean, maybe I would probably still buy physical gold because that in my head that's real money. That's 5,000 years that's been money.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna wrap it up. We got to do a part. We got to do a part.
Yeah.
A part 9. Part 9 here. So
I could talk for 2 hours.
yeah,
bro.
I could talk all day about
How
this.
long has it been? It
love
felt like
this.
10 minutes.
It's been
We got
35
minutes,
Yeah.
but it's super easy. But we'll wrap it up.
We're gonna do another one before we go.
Appreciate Jake coming on, having a great conversation. Obviously, Osh doing his thing. A little fly on the wall. But we're gonna wrap it up.
I got a couple closing thoughts.
Yeah,
So closing thoughts. Again, if you like the podcast, please subscribe. We do it audio as well as YouTube. If you enjoy it, give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. As well as if you like Jake, let us know in the comments. And
he's gonna be on.
He's
Whether
gonna be
you
back
guys,
again.
whether you guys liked him or
Yeah,
not,
I mean,
he's coming back on.
If you guys got questions, let us know because it's hard for me to come up here when I have so many different
Ways to take it.
macroeconomic
Same.
things going in my head. I'm like bouncing from who Satoshi Nakamoto is, 21 million hard cap. How can we tell Satoshi hasn't used his coins? I'm like going
there's a
everywhere,
lot.
right?
There's there's a lot to get into. That's why this is gonna definitely have to be
part 2.
Part 2.
4 and 5.
Probably
sure.
probably the next one will be straight just audio that we can just
Yeah, I think we just do straight audio.
straight audio and then we can go 2 hours.
It lets people absorb your words, right? Instead of looking at my face,
Well, it is.
It
gets
cool.
more
It is
interaction.
cool,
It gives people
No,
behind the
I
camera.
like being on
But,
camera. Sometimes I get a little nervous, so
please, leave us a like, dislike, comment, share. Joshua always gets mad at me because I always forget it. That's why he's here. He's here to remind me. I'm just in the moment rushing, but we appreciate you tuning in. All love over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yeah.
Hey, thank you for getting through the podcast. Hey, you made it this far. You might as well like. You might as well subscribe. You might as well leave a comment. Let us know how you feel. What else we should be talking about. Subscribe right here and click that next video. What are you waiting for?